love my job. I will never change my job. I consider myself privileged to be working every day for the improvement of children's rights and and I put always all of myself into whatever we are doing, because I do really appreciate the support that UNICEF is providing, and the results that often we achieve. The challenges are huge, but we are always looking at the final objective, and often we get there, and getting there is really very much rewarding. UNICEF is the United Nations agency that works for the protection of children's rights. UNICEF is mandated by the Convention for the Right of the Child, basically has been ratified by all countries in this world except one. Our duty and our responsibility is really to support governments, host governments in collaboration with partners and civil society, to make sure that the principles of the Convention of the Right of the Child are translated into programs. And at the center of the programs is the fulfillment of children's rights through, of course, different approaches, different strategies, different programs, different sectors. But this is our main support to all countries, we are working in. We have country programs that normally are, defined in consultation with the governments and in consultation also with all our partners. Country programs that are being revised, regularly, that are adjusted, regularly depending on the situation, because the reality in the country where we work can change, obviously, suddenly, and that was the case of Ukraine, where we had policy-oriented type of program, mainly providing technical assistance to the government on a number of different reforms. And suddenly we had to change and shift and provide humanitarian support because of the conflict in eastern Ukraine. And the whole nature of our program changed. It was quite challenging, but at the same time, of course, needed. The issue of children in conflict nowadays, globally, this is the biggest issue. The number of children that are involved, that are suffering, the consequences of armed, conflicts is really alarming and of amazing concern. I mean, this is unfortunately not improving at all, quite the opposite. Displacement of children from wherever country they live in because of the often armed conflict situation, and the whole migration of thousands of families and children is really painful to see, definitely, and requires additional efforts and extraordinary support and assistance, and that is unfortunately not always possible. There is a lot that has been done, but a lot more that should be done. In eastern Ukraine, we have quite a significant presence right now with a few field offices in government-controlled and non-government-controlled areas, and we do assist, definitely with the humanitarian response, in particularly along the contact line on both sides of the conflict. Our main concern is with the protection of the most vulnerable children, particularly displaced children, but not only. When we talk about vulnerable children, is also about disabled children, children that are being excluded, that are being marginalized, and helping these children to access the services and the social services that they and the care that they need. We have been very active in providing psychosocial support, for example, to many, many children and their families through different channels, through the education system, through community-based protection centers, through youth centers, through mobile teams for, in those areas where it was, difficult to access. We have, I think overall, it's an estimate, but we have supported more than 200,000 children with the psychosocial support, and we have been training also quite a few psychologists and teachers and social workers to help children and to identify those signs that needed, specific support. And this was something very new, I would say, to the country. So it took a little bit of time at the beginning to start and to address, because it required quite an intense, training program for psychologists, school psychologists, and teachers in order to acquire, those skills that were needed, to provide the support. We have worked very in tandem and very much together with the Mokila Academy, and together with them we have tried to establish a sort of a baseline and to monitor the impact of our program. We definitely have the evidence that whatever we have done did improve the psychological well-being of children. Of course, there is much more that is needed, and sometimes a more specialized, type of support. But we are really trying to also establish referral systems that could help children getting more attention, better care, and more specialized care especially. I am actually quite a field person myself. I have been working with programs from the very beginning of my career. I do appreciate understanding, directly the situation on the ground and trying to understand better the needs by talking, to people, to children, to their families, to professionals, health professionals. I can recall getting familiar with the situation of children, for example, living in bomb shelters for quite some time because of the security situation, the shelling and everything, and looking at the faces of these children with their life basically completely, uninterrupted, and the fear, of going out there and reestablish, normal links with their school or with their friends, because of not knowing, what, the future would bring. So the situation nowadays is much better, definitely. We have been very active in providing access to safe water, for example, drinking water, to thousands of families and children, and in repairing some of the water infrastructure, which was damaged by the situation, by the conflict itself. We have nowadays, 3 years, 4 years into the conflict, we have quite a large program. It's not particularly in eastern Ukraine, but we work throughout the country, particularly when it comes to support to reforms. Immunization is another big area where we have been working for quite a long time. We are procuring vaccines on behalf of the Ministry of Health. We are trying to support families and health professionals with the knowledge and the skills that are needed to promote as much as possible immunization, which remains, the best prevention, against communicable diseases. We have been working with young people in different ways. One interesting platform that has been supported in this last 2-3 years is the U Report. It's a platform that is connecting today around 45,000 young people. And through free SMS, they have the possibility and the opportunity to express their views around a number of different issues. It's a sort of a massive consultation process that is extremely relevant because it gives you really the pulse of what young people are concerned with, are afraid of, or would like to be more involved with. And all this wealth of information is regularly processed and analyzed and discussed, also with government officials. We are trying to connect this feedback from young people with the adjustment of certain policies that should be more child-friendly, to accommodate exactly some of the gaps that are clearly out there. Sports for development is another area where we have been extremely active. Just last year we have been supporting a football tournament with around 5,000 children, IDPs and host community children. That has been a fantastic experience to get all these kids working together as a team, and in a way a great tool, a great mean to improve social cohesion and tolerance. The last game was just here in Kiev. And it was amazing to see, the energy and the team spirit of these kids. I mean, it's something to be definitely repeated. I arrived in Ukraine just over 3 years ago. It was August 2014. And I remember quite well the first impressions, mainly related to the beauty of the environment and the town, the city itself. It was full summer, so very warm, very green, beautiful colors and very bright. So that was, I remember coming from the airport and looking at the golden domes and the river. It was just a spectacular image. It's a lovely country. Ukraine is beautiful. Wherever you go, there are very interesting. It's such a big country that there is quite a diversified. There are a lot of choices. I would say definitely the mountains is very, very special during the summer and during the winter. Beautiful scenarios, beautiful spot of Ukraine. Unfortunately, I still need to visit quite a bit of the country. I always end up in the eastern Ukraine because of work, because of my free time is often with my family. But I try to enjoy, yes, definitely, what Kiev offers and the cultural life that is so, amazingly rich. And just simply walking around. This is a town with plenty of parks. So it's just, very relaxing and very nice just to take a stroll and visit, some of these green areas.